Welcome to At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, Tennessee Achieves President and CEO. Tennessee Achieves seeks to be humble but ambitious, disruptive yet intentional, and student-focused while also data-driven. We believe our mission is simple: enhance post-secondary opportunities and outcomes by providing holistic student supports rooted in community and accountability. At scale. But the work is much more complex. Since 2008, we've broken some things in a great way. We've built many things, and we've created something that stems from the idea that a college credential can be a powerful equalizer. From helping individual students navigate the complexities of college to shaping the way Tennessee thinks about preparing and educating tomorrow's workforce, this podcast explores how Tennessee Achieves intersects with partners across our state and throughout the country. Let's dig in with state and national thought partners, business and industry leaders, college and K-12 representatives, and all the others in between that inform, inspire, and interconnect with Tennessee Achieves work. Here we go. Welcome to the At Scale podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, joined by Ben Sterling. Ben, we're back at it again.
Here we go. I'm excited about it.
I know. We said we were banning the word excited. Oh, yeah. Every single episode we kick off with how excited we are about the guest. I will say I'm pretty excited about this one too. Someone I really admire, and obviously the work that she's doing directly intersects with all the work that we do at Tennessee Achieves.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm trying to think of another word to use other than excited. I used tickled a few weeks ago, which kind of got a laugh. Thrilled.
You know what? I think our guest would actually appreciate the word tickled.
I do too.
If you know her at all, I think that she would appreciate it. But I am so excited to introduce Dr. Flora Tydings, who serves as Chancellor of TBR, which for those who do not know TBR, it is the Board of Regents, governing body for Tennessee's community and technical colleges. You know, Flora, I was thinking about, because part of like what I have tried to pride myself on with this podcast is how to introduce people like in a unique way. And I will say that I think that you have been, hold on to this, you're going to be like, what? The mama of bringing so much innovation into this community and technical college space. And so if you will be the mama here in terms of bringing and cultivating and nurturing and fostering, you know, all the things we're supposed to do as mothers. Is that fair? Or are you like, I do not want that title?
I absolutely love that title. Absolutely do. As a mother of four, I will take that title any day. So
absolutely. It's so good. Yeah, gosh, you know, us working moms juggling the children and then the work that also is the child in this space. But we're so thrilled that you're here. I would love if you would kick off, because our worlds intersected. The very first year Tennessee Promise was a reality when you came and stepped into the president's space at Chattanooga State. Walk us through your journey. What got you there?
Well, what got me to Chattanooga State?
Yeah, it's a long, winding journey, huh?
It was a long, winding journey. It was absolutely. I was president of a college in Georgia prior to coming to Chat State, and had a friend. You know, I'd been in Georgia in that president's role for 13 years, and so I was starting to think it might be time to look at one more opportunity. And I had a friend call me about the position at Chattanooga State, and they felt like my skill set might be what would fit well at Chattanooga State for that period in time. So I applied for the job, interviewed, and was thankful to have been appointed as the president of Chattanooga State, particularly with Tennessee Promise coming online. It was exciting to be there that first year when it happened and to see the change that it brought about to that campus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd been at a community college, and we'd always said our average age at community college was about 27 years. And when Tennessee Promise hit, all of a sudden there was a drastic drop in the average age of the student on the community college. And I remember vividly that first week of school, some of the student affairs people coming up to me and going, they're not leaving. They're not going home. They're staying here all day. What do we do with them? And I thought, okay, this is a very different atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so we had to adjust. We really had to kind of rethink what that campus looked like for that younger student, the majority being that younger student now that wanted to have a college campus experience. They really wanted to stay for lunch and to put their hammocks up in the trees and to throw the Frisbees out on the campus. And that had just not been the norm prior.
When I first started at
Ben, were you one of those Frisbee? So Ben was in the first cohort of tNAchieves. Were you a Frisbee thrower, Ben? I
wouldn't even say my daughter makes fun of me when I throw a Frisbee, to be honest. So no, but I was like really on board with Chattanooga State from the get-go. I was there a lot those first couple of years of Tennessee Promise. I drove down there quite a bit from Knoxville. And Dr. Tydings, I remember when you started, that was sort of my first college experience with tnAchieves in the professional space. And I became incredibly close with Debbie Adams, who was your student affairs lead at the time. And so I had a sort of a front row seat to your innovation and how you're going to think about this different community college experience for students. And Chat State's campus was so well equipped for that. It's such a beautiful space, and it feels collegiate in a lot of ways. And so I'd say it wasn't that difficult to figure it out. It was more like, what do you do with your time in that kind of space? But yeah.
So you couldn't tell we didn't know what we were doing then.
Not a bit.
All right.
Make it till you make it. I feel like that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Flora, was part of the draw for you? I'm just curious because I want to at some point talk about the increased emphasis on the technical colleges under your leadership, but was part of the draw the uniqueness that is Chattanooga State? Many people may not know, but it is the community college and technical college. I'm going to use a technical word here, smooshed together in a way that they are not smooshed. Was that part of the draw for you?
Well, and actually that was the norm for me.
Right.
That was the college I came from, where it was all one. And we didn't have the separate technical piece. So yes, I did find that good that they were all together. I think it was a great way for them to operate, and it did feel normal to me to have all of that under one umbrella.
Yeah, I've always found that to be such an interesting model. And I'm not going to step into the political waters where should it be or shouldn't it be, but I do think that it lends itself for those of us that are out helping promote the community and technical college experience. It is easier to talk about.
Yeah, I think you said it very well. I think we do have people that are pro and con. There are people that feel like the TCAT at Chat State doesn't have its own identity, and therefore they don't get promoted to the same level as the other TCATs in the state. Probably 10 years ago, that wasn't even as critical as it is today, because TCATs are highlighted so vividly that, people really, I've actually had people say to me, well, why doesn't Chattanooga have a TCAT? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's just a different model, but it works well there. The accreditation for them, they're able to pick up that piece of the accreditation because they are attached to Chattanooga State. So it just works well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always found it to be an interesting model. Again, my lens is always like when you're talking and promoting things to especially high school students, you got a captive audience and it's sort of a 2-for-1, start here, especially for those TCAT students. And I know you guys have done so much work in that articulation between if you started a TCAT and want to move to the community college, this is much easier now than it was before. But I think it's a great model. But I also understand the value of, we had Cliff and Melody on last week. And so I think Cliff would come for me if I said all the TCATs should be smoosh with the community. So I'm not going there, Cliff.
Yeah, you probably have 27 presidents beating on your door.
That's right. Yeah, don't come for me there.
Yeah.
So you were there for such a short period of time, then moved into the big role as chancellor. I would love to hear, as you stepped into the role, what was your vision? How did you TBR being very strong, but looks very different now from when what it did even a decade ago.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, it was right place, right time for me. As the Focus Act came about, it truly allowed TBR to focus on community and technical colleges. And obviously, that's my background. The workforce piece is my background. So for me, it was just really exciting to see how I could help the system itself become more visible for that segment that had always been a part of TBR that maybe had been a little bit overlooked prior to that. When you've got the big universities in the room, they soak up most of the oxygen. And for the community and technical colleges, their voices were not heard at the level that I believe that they are today. So again, right time for them. The timing for helping our state develop a workforce that is so needed. It really did allow that focus of that attention. And I tell people, I feel like we're kind of the conduit to higher education. We help that high school student to come on board, and then we hand them off to the universities or to the workforce, wherever it is that they need to go and what's right for them in their next step. So we're that critical juncture. We're really that heart and that artery of what needs to be pumped out into the universe, whether they're going to work or they're going to go on to a university. I just feel like we play a very vital role in making that happen in Tennessee in a way that I don't think other states necessarily do. I applaud the action that Governor Haslam took in putting the Focus Act in. I know there was a lot of hesitation. There were a lot of people that were concerned as to what this would do to the universities, and they've thrived. I think it's been really good for them. I think it was an amazing opportunity for the state to take a giant leap forward.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about how Tennessee Promise affected the colleges at that point. You talked about it specifically at Chattanooga State, but we saw Motlow State grow a building out of the ground in a year.
Yeah, they exploded.
TCATs are obviously, there's buildings coming up all over the place. I drove by Hartsville the other day. They're well underway. So talk a little bit about that, the downstream effect of Tennessee Promise if somebody from another state was listening in.
Well, that was obviously a huge game changer for the state. Free college. I mean, that was the message that was heard. And I think, again, Tennessee did it right because everybody said free college. And I think it was Governor Haslam that I heard first say it was no longer, if I can go to college, it was where can I go to college? That's a much different conversation. And people really got excited. They heard it and they did it. They went to college at a rate they'd never done before. Drive to 55 that we put in place. It was the game changer for that, to be able to increase the number of students that we had going into college and actually graduating as a result. And I do believe with Tennessee Achieves, working the mentor piece, helping people understand what does this mean? How do I go to college? Not just can I, but how do I do this now? And laying the groundwork for that, again, unlike any other state. And I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with state directors all the time about what's happening in their state. And I don't think anybody has done it to the level that Tennessee did. They've all got some form of free tuition, but none of them have the partnerships. None of them brought everybody to the table the way Tennessee did. And when we're all rowing that boat in the same direction, our boat's just going to go faster.
And we're still doing that. 10 years later, we're still thinking about that partnership, which is so, so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just, it's an amazing state. It's hard to describe to people that don't have the partnerships how things happen here in Tennessee, and that we really do pick the phone up and call each other and say, hey, what do we do about this? Or we've got this going on over here, and how do we solve it? And we do it together. It just makes a huge difference.
Well, it's putting students at the center of the conversation, right? It's not TBR or Tennessee Achieves or the University of Tennessee or THAC. It really is. I mean, I think about how well done FAFSA is. There's no state in the country that does FAFSA as well as we do. And I think Tennessee Promise deadline, yes, that helps, but we're all in it together. Like, who can come into this high school? Who can help this college? How can we make sure that every student has the opportunity? It just is, it's all hands on deck, to your point.
I like to say you have to actively avoid FAFSA help in Tennessee.
That's fair.
You really do. You absolutely do. And you have to actively avoid the thought of going to college.
Yeah, right. So true.
Is singing that song. And we changed the mission statement of TBR to student success and workforce development. It's a mission statement that everybody can say. You can remember it. You can make sure that every single thing that we do is focused on student success and workforce development. And I truly believe that every partner we work with feels the same way.
What do you think you've learned over the last 10 years in the student success bucket? I want to talk about the workforce piece because I know that you have a lot to say about that. But I would love to just hear from your perspective, especially considering you have this global look now, right? You've been on campus for a very long time, but you're thinking more globally now. What do you think you've learned over the last 10 years? I mean, we had a pandemic over the last decade, right?
Absolutely. And of course that did set us back a little bit. We had people that our technical colleges never really had much of a decline in enrollment. We stayed pretty steady there, but our community colleges really did, because all of a sudden students they didn't really want to think 2 years out, 3 years out. It was an immediate reaction of, what can I do right now? What can I do that will get me in a job that I want to be in right now? That vision of planning, it took a little bit of a hit there. And again, I mentioned Drive to 55 earlier. We looked at the numbers and where we are, and we're not at 55. It's 2025. We've not hit the 55 mark, but I will say we've gone from 32% to 50% in the state. Thanks to all of the things that have been put in place and all the work that's been done. But I think that vision of making sure that we now have the employers at the table,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're talking to us about what's important in their industry, making sure the curriculum is meeting their need. I think that's one of the real keys, the takeaway, that students understand the commitment that they're making today. While it may take 2 years, it's going to be for this job. It's going to be possibly with this company. This is what the salaries look like. This is what that world looks like. And our goal is to always have that student engaged in that world early in the process, because again, they've got to see it. They've got to be able to see it to achieve it. And so the employers, I think, are probably making sure they're at the table. That's been one of the biggest lessons, I think, that, I've always known, but we've been very proactive in getting them there. And they've been very anxious to come to the table because they're in need of this workforce that they're trying to have to run their successful company. So again, I think it's just been a constant. We put the warranty in place, 7 years ago now. It was hard to believe it's been that long. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, every student that graduates from a technical program of study, if within 1 year an employer says, well, they really can't do what you said this curriculum was supposed to train them to do, well, we'll take them back and retrain them for free. And I think the last count I looked at earlier in the summer was we have to date issued over 92,000 warranties, and we've had 0 claims. So it's important that we're keeping that message from the employer instilled in what our faculty are doing in the classroom.
Yeah, and it's really a blurring of the lines. I mean, I would say that under your leadership, Flora, the line between higher ed and workforce has been blurred in a way that makes it very tactile for students to understand, to your point, the employer voice to really have teeth in a way that maybe it didn't before. And I think that's been so incredibly important, especially with this generation. I mean, it's students now don't want to just, for the most part, go to college for college's sake, right? They want to know that there's something on the other side of that. Talk more about that, because you guys are now really sort of selling the colleges as this workforce engine, if you will.
Absolutely. And again, I do think COVID changed that mindset even more. People don't want to waste time. They want to know that at the end of the day, I'm going to have a career or a goal. And even if it is to continue to the university, what have I accomplished in these 2 years that I'm at the community college that would allow me to take the next step into a job and then take the next step once I receive a 4-year or a master's or a doctoral degree? And showing them that pathway has been really important. You mentioned that we have articulated more of that with the technical college, and that's been a very purposeful goal. How do we make sure that students understand this isn't the end of the line? Education's for all of us is forever. You never stop learning, and we want them to be proactive in that never stop learning phase of their life. How do I keep taking the steps to make myself better educated to be the best I can possibly be?
I think Cliff did such a great job, don't you think, Ben, of highlight. He was talking about himself, and how, he had a tie on. You would be so proud of him. Came to the podcast, he had his tie on. He
hour before.
But he was talking about, like, if the tie, I think I'm, loose quote here, but if the tie went away, he would still be a machinist. Like, he could still show up.
Right.
And like, that's a sort of big statement to say, like, these are skills that I got 20 or 30 years ago that will never leave me, no matter how far I make it, up the education pipeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think it puts value in the work as well.
Mm-hmm.
People should value every job all along the continuum. I don't care what that job is. People, we need people at every point. And so I always get a little frustrated when I hear people say, well, they're just going to cosmetology school. And I'm thinking, well, have you gotten your hair cut lately and paid the bill for having your hair cut or colored, or the amount of money that the people make in that industry? It's not unusual for us to have people that graduate with that degree at the technical college level and make 6 figures when they get out, if they get into a really good segment. Welding, same thing. Again, blue collar job going in, not unusual for people to make 6 figures when they get out. Now, they may not want to do that their whole career, but they might. And if they do, they're well positioned. I think one of my favorite stories is a young couple that graduated from TCAT Knoxville. And the husband was a truck driver. He'd gone through the truck driving program, and the wife was a nurse, and they had hired on with a company that they were traveling the entire country while he was getting paid to drive the truck and she was getting paid to do work at each of the places where they went and they stopped. And they had this incredible life that they were living as a result of their 18 months they spent at the technical college.
That's awesome.
So it really, again, it's just these great stories that we get to hear from our students and our graduates, and where life has taken them. It's really fun.
It's so fun. Stories are my favorite. And I also think it's stories like that. We're so data driven. I know you're so data driven, but it's stories like that help us create what we refer to here as the big tent around the word college. I was on a call today, and someone said, "Oh, I never think about the technical college as college." And I'm like, it's in the name. It's in the name. I don't know how else to, right? So that shift happened, gosh, it feels like a million years ago now, but it is college. And then, I think we have to continue to elevate these stories, though, so people understand, to your point, it's not the greasy work that it used to be.
No, not at all. And one more quick story. Chattanooga State at the Volkswagen Academy. That is so much fun to go to the orientation for those students when they're coming in. Those are usually seniors in high school, and they're bringing their parents to this mandatory orientation they have to have at the Volkswagen plant. my favorite thing to do is to watch the faces of the parents, because in their mind, they're thinking manufacturing, dirty, bad, hot. This is not going to be a career. And they walk in and 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is what my child would be learning, that they're over here learning physics, that they're learning advanced manufacturing in a way that they just had no concept of what that meant. And that's a lot of fun to watch that. I mean, on more than one occasion, I've heard the parents say, well, I'm going to go sign up for the program back at the college. I want to now work here or be engaged in that. And I don't want to let my child get ahead of me in this goal. So it's really fun to see that, to see what that education for the parent. And parents help the children decide. They say that usually research has shown most people make a decision on their career based on either their parents, what they do for a living, or somebody close to them that they've watched do that job. And if they've never seen these kinds of things before, they just don't know. They have no idea of what's available and what's out there.
I totally agree. And I think that exposure is like so important, especially, I think about where we are with Tennessee Promise. I mean, it's not too far-fetched that like these siblings are coming through and we're starting to have like multiple siblings and they're like, oh, my sister, my brother, my cousin, I mean, we've now we have just crossed 53,000 graduates, but we've worked with 700,000 students at this point under the Promise umbrella. And you think about like, it's hard to press to find somebody that hasn't had some sort of experience at the community college or experience at the TCAT, because you can't untangle Tennessee Promise from those two institutions. Thinking through this workforce piece, what do you think is next on the horizon as you're looking at, how we're moving into this AI generated workforce? How are you guys? I know it's top of mind. How are you pivoting? What are you thinking through?
Well, it's actually one of 4 main areas that you're going to see us focus on this next year and probably for several years to come. AI and nuclear are two of the large arenas because of the growth occurring in Tennessee. We've got to be ready. And it's not just AI is such a pervasive concept that is now coming to all of education. It's not just that we need to write curriculum on AI, but we need to help our faculty work with AI. We need to help them understand what students may be bringing into the classroom now, knowledge sets, or how they're going to be looking at gathering knowledge a little bit differently. And they laugh at me a little bit because I'm so old. I remember back when you weren't allowed to use calculators in the classroom. Everybody was so afraid that if a student brought a calculator into the classroom, they'd never learn how to do math. Of course, now if you don't bring your calculator or don't have a way to do that, you're kicked out of class for not having the right tools and instruments to use. I think I look at AI right now for us in that same approach. It's a tool that our students need to have in the toolbox and a tool that our faculty need to have in the toolbox, as well as companies that we work with. We've already had several companies that we've done workforce training for on utilizing this within their workforce system. We're also looking at some progressive models that we'll be doing with student services. How can we use AI to better leverage the in-person time? And Chrissy, you know me well enough to know that I truly believe face-to-face is critical in the business that we're in.
Absolutely.
Hybrid and online will never take the place of having that faculty member and those students and the student services staff engage with those students. It's just, you lose too much. And so we're looking at how can we now take AI and use it to better function for those counselors, for the people that are doing intake for students, for actually putting together that pathway that I talked about earlier for a student so that we could immediately hand them their path. If we, after talking to them for a little bit and gathering just a little bit of information, we could immediately begin to formulate what that pathway could look like for them. And it's not one they have to go down, but it's one that we could say, well, this is an option. If you don't like this, or if something changes, let's tweak it. We could do this. We could look at a different option or a way to accomplish what you see yourself doing and the job that you want to hold. So I'm pretty excited about the direct admissions piece that we're working on with THEC, and I think that is a game changer for the state. Again, I think we're going to need to use AI as part of this. Again, a lot of data. We need to be able to manage this data in a way that no one feels overwhelmed, that the students don't feel overwhelmed, and that we're still giving them the personalized experience of college.
Well, we had
throw their frisbee.
We had Melanie Heath from Lumina on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we also had Dr. Gentile. And the more I learned about direct admissions, this was a little bit before the official announcement, so we got a little bit of a spoiler beforehand. But as I was learning about it, I was thinking, boy, how helpful this would have been for me as a student. I was a first-generation college student in Knoxville, and I just had no idea where, what, how, especially even into my senior year of high school. Fortunately, the story's been told 1,000 times, but Tennessee Achieves started when I was a senior in high school. So I fortunately got part of the original process, to get, they brought everything to me.
They brought you to the table, and that's
indoctrinated me for sure. But I think beyond that, just had I been able to see, okay, well, because you took this one step, apply for Tennessee Promise or whatever it is, here are the colleges you can attend. Because I can vividly remember sitting at my parents' desktop computer, looking up bursar websites of private colleges across the Southeast and thinking, what do you mean? It costs this much money.
What is a bursar?
What is a bursar? Somebody told me to go to a bursar website. I don't know what that is. And then I see a cost and I'm like, what is that? So if I'd had, this, we've said it since we launched Promise, but one of the main goals is to demystify college. Yeah. And I think this is such an amazing step in that direction.
I totally agree with you. I mean, again, I think it's a game changer for the state of Tennessee. It's just really going to allow us to streamline the functionality, the piece that is behind the scenes that can be so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think, we're talking about what's shifted over the last 10 years or so, what I call like rotunda education, where this, like, somebody comes to your school and they put the tablecloth out that's got the logo, and then they've got all their little pamphlets, and it's like, okay, I'm here for the college fair. Students come. They don't come anymore.
They don't come.
They don't come. You've got to go to them. And so I love this because the message is not only is college free, but we want you. And I think that is a really important message for these kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the parents will hear this message.
That's it.
So it's really important.
Yeah.
And thinking about the diversity of what's offered, I mean, so you talked about cosmetology. There's also welding. There's also engineering and all the allied health programs. I mean, it really is sort of laying it out for students to your point, like, you can't avoid us. We're coming for you and we're smothering you with all the things. File your FAFSA.
The next step is we're just going to start knocking on every Tennessee Promise student.
Come on, we're taking you over to, Roan State or whatever it is. So, I love it. I think it's such a great next step for the state that has led in this, tuition-free movement, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, it is taking the process and demystifying it. I love that you use that word. I think that's perfect.
So as you think about, being this conduit, I always think about you guys as a springboard. So I don't know, conduit, springboard, you could be both. But if you had a magic wand and you could sort of create an ideal space here where, what would that look like? Like, what aren't we doing that we all need to be doing? How can Tennessee Achieves be more helpful to your mission? Ideal Flora Tydings, mother of innovation in this space. What would you do?
Well, I think, again, we need more people. We need more people. People cost money, and that's where we always, it's expensive. But for all the technology, for all that we're doing, you will hear me say continuously, they still need that one-on-one interaction with a person that can help them navigate. Now, I want to make it easier on our Sherpas, that they have all these tools in the toolbox, but I want every student to have a Sherpa. I want every student in this state to have that. And we're getting closer. I mean, I think we're getting closer every day to that, but my ultimate goal would be that there's not a single student that graduates from high school that doesn't have that experience, that doesn't have somebody taking them through this entire experience in a way that can help them be successful.
Yeah. We have an internal saying of meet each student where they are at scale, right? So we want to meet and see and do, but to your point, I obviously you're preaching to the choir here. Like, we believe that is the game changer, is like, do you have a someone or someones who care deeply about your future, who also know what I mean, I had Jeff and Tina Walker, both my parents, lovely. They cared deeply about my future, but they were clueless about what it took to get me there. And so I think there is some magic formula for these Sherpas, as you call it. So I think we have the same magic wand.
Yeah, and Ben, if it takes knocking on their door, then that's what we need to
That's
do.
what we should do.
I'm here for it, Dr.
So we're going to put our heads together, Flora, and come up with a door knocking, extravaganza.
Maybe we can get TBR AI robots that knock on
There
doors.
we go. We have 2 of the robot dogs over at Rome State.
That's right.
Maybe the dog's more welcoming than a person. We can do that. Most people like dogs more.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would
that's
be
fair.
great.
The TBR robot dog.
I can see it with a
project.
TCAT logo on the side.
I'll get with Amy Moreland and see if we can get something off the ground. This is great. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation. I am excited. We've been a partner now for almost 18 years, and I'm looking forward to the next 18 years and how we can get more students in the pipeline and more students on to that next more successful step, whether it's into the workforce or off to a four-year institution. I'm just so thankful for your leadership and your partnership.
Well, and we are for you. I mean, again, you've been the thought leader in this, so we just couldn't be more blessed to have you leading the charge in all that we are doing. It's incredible.
Group effort, team effort for sure. So
who wouldn't want to live in Tennessee?
Who doesn't want to live in Tennessee? That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. Each conversation is a step toward a deeper understanding of how we can collectively expand opportunity and increase post-secondary access and success for all students in Tennessee. To continue following this work, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode, and your rating or review helps others discover the stories and insights that we'll share. Together, we're not only supporting students, we're building Tennessee's future workforce. Thank you for listening.